Hey guys, John V here from PhoneArena. Right now you're watching a video review of the NOOK HD. It's available right now. You can pick it up for $200 for the base 8GB Wi-Fi only version. They also carry a 16GB model for only $230. And this is the follow-up successor to last year's NOOK tablet, and it is actually sporting a new design, and on top of that, an updated Android experience, which is heavily skinned and it's based on Ice Cream Sandwich. And finally, the biggest thing about the NOOK HD is that it's featuring the highest resolution display on a 7-inch tablet, so it beats out the Nexus 7 display and even the Amazon Kindle Fire HD one. So we're going to find out whether or not the NOOK HD can really stand apart from its rivals. Obviously, the NOOK HD is sporting a total new design compared to the other tablets we've seen from Barnes & Noble, and as a whole, it's not really spectacular, but very distinctive. It's nice that, in fact, that has a very sturdy construction too, which is great because the tablet still kind of centers around children too with the software experience. You have a plastic bezel on the front, which is sufficient in size, and actually grasping the tablet on the sides with both hands, or even with one, and saying that it's super lightweight, the lightest between the Amazon Kindle Fire HD and the Nexus 7. It's very easy to hold in the hand, but it still kind of feels wide with one hand. Now the back has a soft touch casing, which is great. Does a better job of actually repelling dirt, debris, and smudges than the Kindle Fire HD. But as a whole, as we said, it's nothing really spectacular. What makes the NOOK HD stand out is its high-resolution display. It actually beats out its closest rivals. 7 inches in size, and its resolution stands at 1440 by 900 pixels, which is better than 720p, which is pretty much common amongst the 7-inch category. And it is an IPS LCD panel. I kind of get the hint of its detail superiority in the web browser, of course. Seeing that the NOOK HD is more of an e-reader first than anything, it's still wonderful that it works in various aspects. So for example, in a zoomed out view in the web browser, we're still able to make out the fine details. On top of that, the display itself is fully laminated, which offers 0 air gaps, which essentially translates to some superb wide viewing angles. So there's no glare whatsoever, especially in outdoor conditions. And its high brightness output maintains that clarity, so if you're going to be reading primarily, this is going to get the job done. And has a little bit of a warmer color reproduction, a little bit on the yellowish side, which kind of gives it a very nice glow to its appeal. And overall, it really stands out. Like on other previous NOOK tablets, you have the dedicated NOOK button below the display, which essentially brings you back to the home screen when you press it down. Along the left edge of the tablet, towards the top left corner, you have the dedicated power button. It's raised and has a really good responsive feel when you press it down. Likewise, we can say the same thing about its volume control, which is found on the opposite side. Along the top trim, we have the 3.5mm headset jack. You have the microphone there, which works in tandem with the tablet's read and record feature. Meanwhile, on the bottom edge of the tablet, you have the LED light here to indicate it's getting a charge. You have the proprietary charging data port. Unfortunately, it forgoes using the micro USB port from before. And behind this plastic flap, you have a very useful micro SD card slot to increase its storage capacity. And the NOOK HD is available in 8 or 16GB versions. And finally, in the rear, you have the speaker grills, left and right speaker grills towards the bottom here. There are no cameras whatsoever on the tablet, both the front or rear-facing ones, which is one of the compromises made making the tablet very competitive in terms of pricing. And with its closed design, there's no access to its internal battery as well. So here's the interface on the NOOK HD. It works in the same premise as before. It's a heavily skinned Android experience running on top of Ice Cream Sandwich. And even though it might not be as comprehensive or detailed compared to the stock Android experience, we find this to be a little bit better than the Amazon Kindle Fire HD in the fact that there's more personalization in that you could actually change the background wallpaper. So you could use static ones or even live wallpapers. And even though it might not offer widget support, you have just some of the icons and shortcuts to really liven up the home screen experience. On top of that, you have access to also a multitasking pane here, which is great because you could quickly move between and the open applications that you have. And the last thing that we really appreciate is the support for multi-users. So everyone has their own profile, so you could have one specifically set for kids, for yourself, or for another family member. So it really kind of takes that feature that we see with Android 4.2 Jelly Bean and already incorporates into this. So it might not be the most comprehensive, as we said, but for what it offers, it's pretty decent. When it comes to processing power, the NOOK HD features a dual-core 1.3 GHz Ti OMAP 4470 processor with 1 GB of RAM. So it's not the beefiest thing that we've seen out there, but it gets the job done for most tasks. With a live wallpaper, something a little more graphically intensive, we kind of notice some slowdown and sluggishness, but some of the other basic tasks, such as opening up applications, surfing the web, and even reading a book, stuff like that, it's more than sufficient in getting the job done. As I mentioned, the experience might not be the most comprehensive compared to any Android tablets out there, but at least you have the bare essentials when it comes to the core organizer applications. You have a generic contacts application right there. You even have a calendar to get you coordinated on the go. And finally, you have also a basic and good enough email application which utilizes a very tablet-optimized UI. Being a 7-inch tablet and all, it's more ideal to actually utilize the portrait-style keyboard than the landscape one, just because with the landscape, it's merely just a stretched-out smartphone keyboard, so it's rather cramped in that aspect. But the portrait one's a lot better used, just because the buttons are reasonable in size, and on top of that, they exhibit a pretty good responsive rate. Naturally, the centerpiece of the NOOK HD experience is all about the reading experience, and you kind of get the hint of that with all the different magazines, newspapers, and stuff like that you could actually purchase. For example, we have the National Geographic magazine, so it's the same thing you'd find in a regular magazine, but you have also an article view here, which is great in the fact that it'll actually put everything in a column view, make it a lot easier to read with your eyes, and seeing that it has such a high resolution display, it's very nice and crisp with everything when you look at it. On top of that, it kind of centers around children too. You have a variety of different children's books, and with the read and record feature, you could record your voice so your kids could actually listen to it later on when they look through the book itself. We really can't complain about the web browsing experience on the NOOK HD just because it gets the job done. You have the high resolution display which gives details some very nice crisp visuals. On top of that, its performance is good too. It loads up pages fairly quickly, renders them properly on the go with very few wait, and on top of that, it has some nice navigational controls, so it has all the essentials that you want to find. So checking out the music player on the NOOK HD, it's pretty much straightforward, very conventional by today's standards, nothing really special with its presentation. You have your track listing, you have the album cover, and also the on-screen controls, of course. As far as the audio quality from stereo speakers, we gotta admit it's very strong and powerful at the loudest volume setting, and even better, there's no distortion with it. It's wonderful that the NOOK HD centers around the Barnes & Noble ecosystem, so when it comes to reading books, magazines, newspapers, even comic books, it's great in that aspect, and to an extent you even have the ability to actually rent or even purchase other multimedia content like movies, TV shows, and even music. But when it comes to the applications though, seeing that this isn't the full Android experience, you're limited to what the applications that are available with the tablet. Sure, you'll get some of the big name apps like Netflix, you have Flipboard and Twitter, but still missing out on a wide array that you typically find on a standard Android tablet. Battery life with the NOOK HD is average. You're going to get by through a solid 1 day of normal usage out of a full charge, which is pretty much the standard fanfare with most 7-inch tablets out there. But it's worth noting there are no proximity or light sensors, so it's only manual brightness setting on there. So the lower brightness setting will probably inch out a little bit more battery life out of it. Just like some of the other 7-inch tablets we've been seeing, the NOOK HD really impresses us with its price point. It's $200 for the base 8GB version. Better yet, it's the 16GB model, which only retails for $229, which is a hairline cheaper than some of its rivals. The NOOK HD is great if you're going to be reading books, magazines, and of course if you're into the whole Barnes & Noble ecosystem. But if you're more multimedia, you'd probably recommend the Amazon Kindle Fire HD just because it has a better selection in that aspect. But if you really want the tablet experience, we'd probably recommend the Nexus 7 just because it has stock Android. We still appreciate the experience on here just because you have some of the core aspects of Android intact, like the rich personalization, the different home screens, the multitasking pane, and even support for multi-users. It lacks a front-facing camera, so it misses out with video chatting functionality, but you do gain a micro SD card slot, so you can increase its storage capacity. So there are some compromises made with this. So if you'd like to learn more about the NOOK HD, guys, you can check out our website, PhoneArena.com. This is John V. Thanks for watching.